Death is a fact of life, but many people spend at least part of their lives wondering what happens when we die.
WIT 42 News reporter Michael Oder found out both faith and science play a part in how people view the afterlife. Michael joins us now in the studio with a special report. Michael.
When Nancy and John Kitts lost their two sons at an early age to cystic fibrosis, they relied on their faith to carry on. The two experienced what they call messages from God in the final days of their son's battle with a degenerative disease. But are those messages real? And can the afterlife be proved? For Nancy and John, the answer is simple. Nancy and John Kitts lost their two sons, Stennis and Trip, to cystic fibrosis at an early age.
Stennis lived to be 6 years and 9 months old.
The youngest, Trip, was 9. Nancy and John wanted both the boys to know God, and they did at an early age. Toward the end of their lives, the Kitts spent a lot of time in the hospital. One night, when Stennis was close to death, something happened. A friend of the family wrote down the experience.
It was a conversation between 6-year-old Stennis Kitts and others. There were several people in the room, but the others to whom Stennis spoke were invisible to all except him.
Shortly after, Stennis passed away. The impact of what they experienced in the hospital room didn't hit Nancy and John until the next day.
Then when we realized the angels were there, you know, because he wasn't having to walk in alone, the angels came.
3 years later, Trip was in the hospital. One day, when he was having a hard time breathing, Nancy started reading from her Bible. Trip stopped her.
And he said, "No, Mama, that's not the right verses." He said, "Read page number 1649.
Her Bible only went to page 1334. She grabbed a piece of paper and did quick math.
And it meant that I should go to page number 315 in the New Testament.
It was 1 Thessalonians, chapter 4.
Tripp said, "Mama, those are the sweetest verses. I don't know why God gave me those verses, but I'll tell you how he helped me remember them, because Joe Montana's number is 16 and he plays for the 49ers.
A few days later, the Lord called Trip home. Trip loved sports, and when he and Stennis were little, they met one of Alabama's biggest sports legends, Bear Bryant. He signed some posters that, at the time, pushed for Bryant to be the winningest coach in college football. It wasn't until years after the boy's death that Nancy made the connection.
I looked at it, I said, 315, claim the victory. That's the page in my Bible that God led us to. And through Trip, there are the verses about Christ's victory over death.
The experiences with Stennis and Trip changed the way the Kitts view death.
If Christ knocked on the door right now and said, "John, it's time for you to come home," I'll probably knock him down getting out the door.
Many people would say that it's a non-scientific view that God exists, but others would say it's also a non-scientific view that there are multiple universes.
Dr. George Keller helped establish the Center on Science and Religion at Samford University. When it comes to explaining what people are actually experiencing near death, Dr. Keller tells me there are some explanations, but they don't give the whole picture.
Some have suggested that it might be an alteration in brain chemistry, perhaps lower amounts of oxygen in the blood, or changes in the neurotransmitters that occur in the brain. And these could lead to hallucinations, people imagining that they're talking to somebody or imagining they're looking at somebody. So that's one possible explanation. The short answer is I don't know.
Despite everything the Kitts endured, they believe God gave them another chance to be parents. Ginny Merritt was born a year and a day after Tripp's death. Her mother put her up for adoption, and Nancy and John say God called them to adopt her.
It's such a comfort. I mean, it's always been a comfort to us, a great comfort. And God didn't have to give us that comfort, but he did.
An experiment done around the turn of the 20th century surmised that the human soul weighed 12 ounces. Where it goes when we die is still a topic of much debate. We have more with Dr. Keller and the Kitts with this story over at WIT.com. In studio, Michael Oder, WIT 42 News, coverage you can count on.